Ready for another deep dive into the day's top stories? Markets, global tensions, even some tech for you.
Let's dive in.
The markets. Kind of a roller coaster lately. S&P 500 can't seem to break out of this range. Investors, not sure where things are headed.
Yeah, even Buffett's showing caution.
Buffett.
Berkshire Hathaway, record cash, $334 billion last quarter of 2024.
Wow, that's a lot of cash on the sidelines.
Makes you think, what does he see coming? Downturn? Or just waiting for the perfect moment?
Well, Bank of America seems to think there are opportunities, particularly in tech, as we head into earnings season.
Interesting, despite the market jitters.
Yeah, bullish on companies like Nvidia.
Gotta love those earnings reports. It's always a good reminder, though, gotta research, know the companies, not just follow trends.
Right. And there are some cautionary tales out there, too.
Oh.
Market Watch, they're highlighting this trend. More and more unprofitable companies going public.
Makes you wonder about the market strength, right? Like, are these valuations sustainable, bubble territory?
Big questions. And then you have Walmart, worst week since 2022.
Investors worried.
Slowing profit growth. Buffett Simon, Walmart's former U.S. CEO, he's saying Wall Street's misinterpreting things.
Interesting. What's his take?
Earnings and tariff concerns. Overblown. He even thinks it might be a good time to buy.
Going against the grain. I like it. Simon knows his stuff.
Always good to look beyond the headlines, right? Back to Buffett for a second.
Oh, yeah, his letter.
Annual letter to shareholders dropped today. Lots of buzz as always. More cash. Sold some stock, but no explanation.
He keeps us guessing. What's his strategy?
It's the mystery of Buffett.
He did offer some advice to former President Trump, though.
Huh. Didn't see that coming.
The U.S. fiscal problems. Buffett says they need addressing.
Interesting to see him wading into politics.
Definitely adds fuel to the fire, especially with Trump back in the spotlight.
Speaking of, he's already shaken things up. Fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
General C.Q. Brown out.
LT Gen. Dan Raisin, Kane in.
And then there's that hint about a potential Postal Service takeover, Commerce Department running things. Talk about disruption.
Feels like we're stepping back into a time of, well, unpredictability.
Deja vu, right. What are the long-term implications? Big questions.
Shifting gears a bit. Ukraine. Situation remains tense. 3 years in. Mounting challenges.
And reports suggesting U.S. backing might be fading.
Not good. They're relying heavily on us for defense against Russia.
Absolutely.
And to make matters worse, word is the U.S. might cut Ukraine's access to Starlink.
Starlink for communication and coordination.
Vital tool for them.
Sources say it's about mineral rights.
Whatever the reason, losing Starlink would be a huge blow. Coordination, communication, intelligence gathering, all hampered.
It really highlights how much power technology holds, even in war. Control access, you control a lot.
A crucial point. That Postal Service takeover by Trump's Commerce Department? A lot of controversy there.
Yeah, the Postal Service has had its share of troubles, declining mail, costs going up, and the regulations. Not easy.
So is Trump saying the Commerce Departments can fix all that?
It's not clear what his plan is. Some people think it's about efficiency, a more business-like approach, but others are worried. Privatization, service cuts, especially in rural areas.
Job losses. Service cuts, that's a big concern for a lot of people.
And does the Commerce Department even make sense? I mean, they focus on trade and development. Postal Service is a different beast.
Millions of people rely on the Postal Service. Mail, medications, all sorts of things.
Definitely a story to keep an eye on. What will Trump actually do? What will the consequences be?
It seems like everything he does creates controversy. These latest moves, they're raising some eyebrows. Like, is he overstepping his bounds, putting his interests ahead of the country's? Hopefully not.
We have to stay vigilant, hold our leaders accountable. And speaking of accountability, this war in Ukraine, it's casting a long shadow over the global economy.
In what way?
Supply chains are disrupted, energy prices are soaring, and the uncertainty makes it tough for businesses to plan, for people to budget.
It really shows how interconnected everything is, how vulnerable we are.
Some are benefiting, sure, but others are struggling to adapt. This conflict has global implications.
And then there's inflation, still a major worry for many. Cost of living's outpacing wages. Families are feeling the pinch.
Puts pressure on the Fed to raise rates, but raise them too fast. Could slow the economy, even trigger a recession.
It's a tough spot for them. Curb inflation without causing more harm.
A challenge they're facing, and one that will probably keep affecting the markets and the economy for a while.
Investors and businesses have a lot to navigate right now.
Stay informed, make good decisions, be prepared for the unexpected. That's the key.
Back to Ukraine for a moment.
This conflict, it goes beyond Ukraine. Global security, stability, it's all at stake. What's the latest?
Well, 3 years in, the Ukrainian people, they've been incredible. So resilient, so determined. But things seem to be getting tougher for them.
They are facing mounting challenges. The war has taken a toll on their infrastructure, their economy, their people.
And there are those reports that U.S. support might be waning.
A worrying development. They need our help to hold off Russia.
Why would we reduce support now? at such a critical time?
It's complicated. Some lawmakers are concerned about the cost, saying the money could be used elsewhere. Others worry about escalating the conflict, maybe even getting drawn into a direct confrontation with Russia.
So it's a mix of politics and finances driving this potential shift.
It creates a lot of uncertainty for Ukraine. They rely on our military and financial aid to keep fighting.
And then there's that report about Starlink. The U.S. might cut off their access
Starlink.
for communication and coordination.
Sources are pointing to mineral rights as the reason.
It's unclear exactly what that means, how it's connected to Starlink, but losing it. A huge setback for Ukraine. Coordinating their defense, communicating with citizens, gathering intel on Russian movements.
Huge setback, absolutely.
Makes you think, technology, it's a weapon in the 21st century. Control the access, you control a lot.
You've hit on something important there.
What if the U.S. does scale back its support? What are the long-term implications?
It's hard to say for sure, but they could be significant. It might embolden Russia, make it harder for Ukraine to resist, could even signal to other countries that the U.S. isn't a reliable ally.
It's a scary thought. The stakes are high, really high.
No doubt about it. The decisions made by world leaders in the coming weeks, months, they're going to have a profound impact on how this war plays out, on global security in general.
It's a reminder that the world is changing, interconnected, unpredictable, more important than ever to stay informed, engaged with what's happening.
Absolutely. We have to think critically, question our assumptions, seek out different perspectives. That's how we make sense of these complex challenges.
Well said. Before we wrap up, thought maybe we could touch on a couple of positive stories. They've kind of been overshadowed by the bigger headlines.
I like the sound of that. Little optimism never hurts.
For anyone looking to build wealth, some good news on the financial front. A 40-year-old self-made millionaire shared some insights, the habits that helped him achieve success.
Inspiring stories like that are always welcome. What were some of his key takeaways? What's his advice for those seeking financial freedom?
Clear goals, disciplined savings plan, wise investments, patience and persistence. Building wealth takes time and effort.
Timeless advice. Applies to everyone, no matter your income or background. It's a good reminder that financial success is achievable.
It's about making informed decisions, sticking to a plan. And speaking of innovation, there's some interesting news out of the AI world. A company called DeepSeek is making some waves. They're using a technique called distillation to train AI models. Could be a game changer for companies like OpenAI.
Distillation, how does that work?
It's a bit technical, but basically you train a smaller AI model to mimic a much larger, more complex model. So you get similar accuracy, similar performance, but with less computing power, fewer resources.
That's huge. Makes AI more accessible, more affordable, opens up new possibilities for all sorts of industries.
Exactly. Even with all the challenges and uncertainty, innovation keeps happening.
Human ingenuity pushing the boundaries. Gives me hope for the future.
Me too. Before we sign off, I wanted to leave everyone with a thought. Something to ponder.
I'm listening.
Market volatility, the war in Ukraine, former President Trump's back of the game. All these things we talked about.
Big events shaping the world as we know it.
Are they all connected somehow? Or just random events? Are we seeing, I don't know, like a shift in the global order?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? No easy answers.
Makes you think, that's for sure. It's a question I'll probably keep thinking about long after we're done here.
It's good to think about these things, the big questions.
Exactly. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive for today.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to delve into these topics.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, stay curious.